Hello, dearest patrons. Happy Sunday. Thank you for your patience. We will get this year up and going in the right direction before it's all over with. But I wanted to touch base with you today and share with you this simple thought. My question for you is simply this: what do you say about yourself to yourself? Many years ago, I was preaching a message about self-image, and it occurred to me that ever so often I would look at a picture of myself and actually be surprised and felt like I looked pretty decent in that picture. So I started flipping through the family album, trying to find a picture that better represented how I felt about myself every day and how I felt like I looked to the outside world. And sure enough, I found one, and it was absolutely horrible. But a great understanding about how I thought about myself came out of that experience. I have a tendency, maybe you do too, to carry around inside of me an image of a very ugly picture. And sometimes I'm surprised when people compliment or whenever I see myself in a better way. Maybe actually, after I've succeeded in something or done something worthwhile. That good picture doesn't match the bad picture that I'm carrying around inside myself. So how in the world did we get that ugly picture to start with? And I think it's a collection of comments that we have collected internally throughout our life. Maybe some of it's biological, but I think a lot of it comes from the environment. It's almost as if every person we encounter, every situation that we run into, is a commentary on our well-being, a commentary on our self-worth. And we collect these comments over and over. Last time I mentioned to you about the mayor saying something derogatory to me, actually saying that my vocabulary wasn't large enough. And I always stumble when I tell the story, which makes me feel like sometimes maybe he's right. See how easy it is for these things to upset us and to throw us off track? But that was a comment that I received from him, and it becomes this ongoing commentary. And so it's important that that is being countered, particularly if you have people in your life that maybe unintentionally are always critical. It's important that you say good things about yourself to yourself. Something that affected me greatly was the death of my father right before I turned 3 years old. A little bit later on, when I learned that he had died as a drunk driver and thus had caused his own demise, I couldn't help but wonder, even at a very young age, was I lovable enough? Because it just seemed like that if I was lovable enough, then he would have been motivated to clean up his act and to be more careful and to hang around, to have a relationship with me. Obviously, much older, I learned about alcoholism, and I began to understand the real causes of his death. But by then, it had already affected the internal picture within me. But we now are able to start over. We've made such great changes in our lives. We've made such sacrifice. We've taken thoughts and we have followed them to their obvious and reasonable conclusion, and in many cases paid a price for it, sometimes very dear prices. But that should motivate us every single day to talk positively about ourselves to ourselves and say, you know what, if I can do that, I can do this. If I can change this, I can change that. So, we can start over every single day. Well, how far can we go? We've already escaped so many of the social limitations, so many of the social expectations. So I don't know how far we can go. I no longer have a supernatural concept of trying to become a Superman or do something extraordinary beyond human ability. But what I do know is that I was stronger than I thought I was. I was braver than I knew that I could be. And that's the same thing that is true for you. We all share this one world, this one reality. But within this common experience, each and every one of us possesses this one life. And because it is singular, and because we possess it, we have the right to dictate and determine how that life is lived out. To do anything less would be to not fully appreciate what we've learned about reality. Now, that's not to say that there are not responsibilities. There are responsibilities. I'm no longer pie in the sky thinking. It's not to say that there are not mitigating circumstances that pull on us and cause us to have to go in certain directions at certain times. But the question is, what are we saying about ourselves to ourselves? And is it legitimate? And is it fair? Or is it just a collection of the comments and commentary of the haters? So, I want to ask you one last time. What do you say about yourself to yourself? What is it that you've learned, and that you've learned the hard way? Can that lesson take you to the next level of your life? Have you learned things about your personality? Have you learned things about your strength, about your personal integrity? Have you learned things about your intelligence and your ability to reason your way, not just out of superstition, but out of all social limitations? Let's take this journey together. I would appreciate your comments. I would appreciate your questions. As I said at the beginning, I most definitely appreciate your patience. We'll get there. We're building this community. We're creating something that hasn't existed before. So please, do yourself and the rest of the world a huge favor by being the real you. Be brave.